And how's it going, guys? We have the pleasure of going into another tutorial with VFX master Nick Khoo. It is still Creative Week, and boy do we have some stuff planned for you today. This week he is committed to one VFX tutorial every single day, which is crazy. Today Nick's going to be showing you how to create this really crazy circular stretched pixel effect. But first, of course, we're going to talk about Envato Elements. If you're watching this video, you're probably a video editor, and Envato Elements is a video editor's dream. It's a subscription service that gives you unlimited downloads of the most incredible stock footage, like cloud and fog overlays, aerial footage, fire, lightning. They also have incredible VFX packs, Premiere and After Effects templates, sound effects, royalty-free music, and literally anything you could ever want as a video editor. Just by clicking the link below, you will automatically get a free first month. You'll see that coupon for the free first month at the very end after you've finished signing up. And that's it. I use Elements literally in some regard every day. Nick, the floor is yours.
G'day everyone, welcome back. Thank you, Josh, again for that amazing introduction. You are a great guy, Josh. If we haven't said that before, we do love you, even with your funky microphone that some people seem to not agree with, but I like it. It's your brand, dude. I like it. Anyway, today we're going to look at how to do this little effect here. It's pretty straightforward, but it's kind of cool. You will probably need a guide to flip. If you want to follow along, you can download the project file in the description below. And we are using some stock footage from the amazing Envato, which you can also sign up for free for 1 month to try out. So feel free to sign up, get that stock footage, and follow along in this tutorial, and we can get started. However, if you've got your own guide flipping, you're welcome to go look for that as well, but we're going to use pretty much the same technique anyway. So let's get started. We are in After Effects beta today because we need to get that rotoscoping done, and that's one of the first steps we need to do. So to get to the After Effects beta, you're going to have to go to the Adobe Cloud here and go to Apps, and then go down to Beta Apps. And then we're going to have to go and download After Effects Beta, which is just here, and there should be an install if you haven't got it already. I am currently not on the latest version. I was having it was a little bit buggy. I'm currently on 17.1.3. I was having a little bit of issues, and it is a beta, so I understand why. It wasn't working on 17.5. Don't know why, but 17.1.3 seemed to be doing the trick. Anyway, so have that installed first, and then come back here. All right. Have you got it installed? Great, now let's get started. So we've got this shot here. It's a pretty long clip in itself, but we're just going to use a couple of seconds of it because I just want to get the flip just for the sake of the demonstration. I mean, you could use the whole thing if you really wanted to, but just for the sake of this demonstration, we're probably just going to, so I just double clicked here and it just comes in the viewer window here. I'm probably just going to use it from just where he flips. So probably just there. I'm going to put an in point there. So we're going to use this. And then we're going to go over here and find an out point, and then probably around just somewhere there will do, probably around there. Now what we're going to do is going to drag this and pull it into our new comp here, and that'll just automatically resize everything to what we want. And so there's the shot we want. We can probably just make it a little bit longer. So I'm going to bring up the sequencing for composition, the comp settings, which is just Command K or Control K. And we're just going to make this just a little bit longer. I'm going to take the timecode down to 0 because I don't like it. We don't really need it to be any longer than that. Just going to make it 3 seconds just to see if there's a little bit more in here that I want to add. I'm going to press the minus button to zoom out or to see a bit more of the timeline. Just a touch longer than that, I think. Let's see. Yeah, all right, let's do it there. I just wanted those extra frames. We're going to press N on our timeline to basically to trim the work comp area, so that work area is there, and then we're going to right click on it and we're going to trim comp to work area. All right, that's a little bit better. Let's have a look at this. All right, so the first thing we need to do now is to basically separate this guy from the background. So that's kind of important in order to get that effect going. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our roto brush tool, which is and it's only going to work if you're in After Effects beta. I mean, look, roto brush, you can take your chances and use Roto Brush 1 in the current version of After Effects, but I'm telling you right now, Roto Brush 2 is the place to be. So just click on that, and we're just going to double click on this, and we're going to have Roto Brush enabled, and all we're going to do is we're just going to draw a little bit of a thing around and just outline him. It's already picking up most of the stuff already. It's doing pretty good. We're just going to get rid of some of the stuff in the middle here that we don't need. So I'm going to press spacebar to actually analyze the frames, and I'll see you in a second. All right, okay, so right now we can kind of see it kind of didn't get everything, so we're going to have to go through and do a little bit of manual adjustment. It is a complicated thing. I wouldn't expect it to be able to get it, so it loses a bit of the track here. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically get in here and make sure these are getting added in as well, so we don't lose these. Let's just step through. I'm going to page up and page down to basically go through the frames. All right, that's looking pretty darn good at the end here. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. What we're going to do is, I think we're going to let's have a quick look at it. All right, I think it's for the most part, it's losing a little bit here, but that's fine because I think for the shot we're doing, it's not particularly important. And I say that now, but you know, let's hope that's not that important. We'll freeze it and we'll come back in a sec. All right, so let's go back to our main comp and let's have a look at what we've got. So here is the final. This is basically what we've got so far. It's a little bit rough in some areas, but for the most part we've got the motion. It just sort of flickers out here at the top here. It's a bit odd. That's okay though, because we're actually not going to see it. It's not going to be super clean. It's not going to be in a clean background anyway. But we can probably clean this up a little bit. I'm just going to push the feathering up just a touch. I like to reduce the chatter just because I just don't like too much chatter. We're going to shift the edge just in a little bit. Maybe just muck around the contrast just a touch. Just muck around a few of these settings. Use motion blur. There's a lot of motion blur, so we might as well do that. We can contaminate the edges. And already you can kind of see it's looking a lot better. I have got it on quarter res, but it might look better in the full res. Again, don't worry too much about the fact that you're losing his feet, but the main part of his body in there is good. All right, so now that we've got that, let's put the background back in. So we're going to duplicate the footage and we're just going to take the effect off so you can see the background as well. So what this means now is that we've actually basically got a way to get stuff behind him, and that's kind of the good thing. So you can kind of see this is what we've got. Again, not perfect, but for all intents and purposes, this is going to work really well for what we're doing. All right, guys, I'm going to pre-compose the footage now. So what I'm going to do is go to layer and then go pre-compose, or you can press Shift Command C or Shift Control C if you want to basically do the shortcut leet way of doing it. So we're going to call this flipping guy matte 1, and we're going to make sure we move all the attributes into the new composition and go okay. And that's great. That just means all the effects and everything are just going to go into that new composition rather than sitting on the outside of it. Now we're going to duplicate that again, and we're going to call this flipping matte 2, and then we're going to call this streak, and you'll see why in a sec. Okay, we're going to pull this onto the timeline, and we're going to find a point here that we can see where his body is at the straightest, and I think around there is pretty good. So we're actually going to freeze frame this, and we're going to take the freeze frame here, so it's just going to lock onto that one frame. And now what we're going to do is now pre-compose this again. So we're going to layer pre-compose, and we're going to call this streak texture. All right. Now we're going to jump into the streak texture comp, and we're also going to jump into the flipping, because now that this is frozen, we're going to just jump in here at the exact point. So we're just going to make sure we find the exact point. And so there, press U to find the exact point. We're going to double click on this, and we're going to make sure you're in the right place, because if you move either side of the frame, it'll start moving. So that's not what we want. We want to make sure that we're on the exact time point here, just so that we get the right frame and reference from the top layer. So what I want to do is actually rotate this and bring it sort of towards the middle. If you want to bring the crosshairs up, you can kind of see it. Bring it towards the middle here so we get a nice kind of looking frame. And we'll go back up a layer, and now that we've got it, now what you're going to do is we're going to draw the smallest sliver we can possibly get on this body. So let's go from about here, a little bit of the red, and let's go all the way down to the bottom here. That's not bad. And now let's make this as thin as possible, like really, really thin. And that's probably as thin as we're going to get. Now that's looking pretty cool. We've just got that little sliver. Now what we're going to do is we are going to have to recenter this to the middle. So I'd suggest either pressing it's Option Command Home or Control Alt Home. It actually auto centers it to the middle here. And then we're going to basically bring up the scale properties, and we're going to scale everything out like so. So we're going to make it as big as possible. Now it's going to look really odd, but if you turn on the collapse transform here, which is that little star button next to the Heidi face, it'll actually fix itself up nicely. So we're just going to pull it out to some ridiculous size, and that's pretty good. We can probably recenter it just so that's a bit more even. All right, so if we go back to the top layer, you kind of see what we've got here. So you kind of see this little streaky effect, which is kind of fun. Now we can kind of go from here, and I'll show you how we get that polar coordination kind of look. The circle look is pretty easy. So if we go to the effects tab and then we go for polar coordinates and drag that on, I'll show you what this does, and it's kind of cool. Now, oops, I pulled two of them on. I only meant to pull one on. So at the moment, the distortion's on polar to rectangle, or we want rectangle to polar. So right now it's going to do this, but we don't want that. We actually want it to make it look like a circle. So if we go to rectangle to polar, voila, we've got ourselves a circle. Now, that's kind of cool, but it's not moving or animating, and we kind of needed to move and animate. So we're going to go into our streak texture, and we need to basically make this move across the screen like this. So we can use our stroke tool. If we just draw a stroke from left to right, so let's just go here to here, and let's also animate it as well. Oh, let's make sure it's big enough to cover the whole screen. So we'll make the stroke really, really big so it covers the whole texture. I mean, it can honestly be the whole screen. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to go from left to right anyway. So just for simplicity, we'll just make it the whole screen. Now I'm just going to take it down and turn it off for a second. Right now I'm going to put some animate. I'm going to go to the stroke layer, and I'm going to go trim path, and we're going to go somewhere around here and set the trim path to 0. Set a keyframe here, and then go further up, and then we're going to set a keyframe here and make it go 100%. And we can also set the alpha matte. So what happens now is that you can see that the streak will animate on. So if we go back to the comp above us, you can kind of see now the streak will animate on according to where the stroke is down the bottom. But it starts in the wrong place. We actually want it to start probably about there, I would say. So let's double click into the comp here and make it start there. And we want it to come from the back of the foot and then come round, right? So obviously it's starting in the wrong spot. So we need to rotate it. So let's just rotate where it comes from. And still, bear with me guys, bear with me. Now we can kind of see it kind of follows where it's supposed to go, but it probably finishes a little bit early. So let's make sure that this doesn't finish so early. Let's bring this out a little bit. It's a little bit of trial and error, guys, so I apologize in advance. There's no exact science to this. You could probably make it. Let's make it around there. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So you can kind of see now it's taking a little bit of shape. We'll go on kind of where it needs to be. Let's actually make it more like here. And let's start it just a touch earlier. Yeah, that looks like it's going to line up. Now, the reason why we had it matted is so that you can actually go behind the dude. So just so you understand why we did it the way we did. Now, it's a little bit high in the frame, and you could probably suggest that maybe the circle is a little bit big. So the way you can adjust the circle is adjusting the size of the mask. The width of the circle, should I say, is just the size of the mask here. Or you can actually go in and shrink the circle down just a touch, just to make it a little bit more seamless, I guess. All right, that's not bad. Now, I kind of don't like the hard edges on the edges of the circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to muck around with those edges a little bit. And the way we're going to do that is I'm actually going to put a feather on the actual stroke itself. So I'm going to select the stroke, and I'm going to go to the rectangle tool, and we're going to go up here where it says the create tool mask. Make sure this is selected, otherwise it's not going to work, or you'll end up drawing another rectangle. And then we're going to draw a mask over the stroke, and we'll just shrink this in just a touch. And we'll bring up the feather properties for this mask, so press F, and then you see the feather properties there, and we'll uncheck this link icon, and then what we're going to do is just drag it out so that it's a little bit more feathery on the edges. And if we turn this off, you'll see that the stroke now is a little bit more feathery on the edges right there. However, that edge is still very a little bit a little bit hard, but we'll fix that up in a second. But look at this. Infinitely already looks a lot better to me. Looks more organic to me. All right, so that's one section we have almost done. Now we're almost to the end, guys. We're almost there. All right, so next section here, we need to basically, next section, we need to basically figure out how to make the stroke, the in-stroke, just a little bit softer. The easiest way I found is to actually we'll put a Gaussian blur on it. And what we'll do is we'll drop that Gaussian blur on there. And then we'll also make it a horizontal, and we'll just a touch. Doesn't have to be huge, but just so the edges aren't super hard, right? Okay. You can probably affect the timing of that just a little bit better, but we'll come back to that in a sec. All right, so that's not looking too bad. Okay, let's try and track this to the ground as well. So I'm going to basically track this to the ground plane. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll still work, and it looks a lot better than without it. So we're just going to track 2 points on the ground, and thankfully this ground actually has quite a lot of points on it, so which makes it very easy. If I can just see one. What am I doing? There we go. We're looking for one of those T's on the ground. Now this footage is quite large, so it'll take a long time to track. So I wouldn't suggest tracking anything too big. These track points are very, they don't have to be anything amazingly huge, just enough to be able to see what's happening on the ground. It's 4K footage, so it's going to take a while to track. Anyway, so we'll track the points now and see what happens. Thankfully, everything's very crisp. I tried this before. It's actually a pretty straightforward track, which is fantastic, and that's what you want. Alrighty, we're going to create a new null, and we're just going to send all the data to our null that we just created, and then we're going to press apply. Now, just for good measure, and just so that you can keep track of your stuff, as a pro tip, I would suggest labeling your null. So we'll call this the track null. All right, now let's parent this streak texture to our track null. Now already that looks way better. We can probably fix that up. We can already move that over to kind of fix up let me just turn down the resolution a bit. My computer's just lagging behind. We can probably improve that, the timing of that streak a little bit, because I think it's coming in a little bit too early, or too late, should I say. Maybe it should be coming a bit earlier. Let's see if we can improve that a little bit. Should be coming in later, right? No, it should be coming in earlier. All right, let's bring this in. Maybe a bit later than that. Yeah, it's not looking too bad. And now it comes in too late. Now it finishes too late. All right, we need to bring this up. Anyway, like I said, it's a little bit of trial and error, but you'll get the idea. All right, that's looking a bit better. I like it. I like it. We can probably, maybe if we do an ease, it might actually work a bit better. So let's put easing on both sides. Let's see if it works a little bit better. No, it doesn't. Now we need to muck around with it, actually, but I do like easing, so I'll make it just... Yeah, actually, that doesn't look too bad. It's close. It's close enough. All right, cool. Now we're kind of almost there. Now I like just to add a few more extra things. I like to sort of offset a little bit, so I added a little bit of a 3D effect to it. So what I did was I actually duplicated this streak texture, just so I had a slightly different version of it. So let's call it streak texture 2, and we'll bring it on to this. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply the same effect, so polar coordinates, and apply the same effect to it. And I'm actually going to hold down shift and parent it to this, so it's it's going to take on the same properties as this. However, I'm going to turn on the 3D, and I'm going to push it back in Z space, or Z space for you Americans, just to kind of give it a slightly different look, and you'll see why. It kind of gives it a nice sort of organic look to it. Now I'm going to double click in here, and I'm actually going to change the texture a little bit. So I'm actually going to move this mask up a little bit so we get a little bit more of the red. And I don't know, we'll just vary it, just the shape of this a little bit, and it just kind of gives us a different variation on what we've already got. So you kind of see here we've got same thing, but with just a little bit more of the red in it, which is kind of cool. And you kind of see it looks like he's going through a little bit of a tunnel here. I did like kind of playing with the opacity settings just a touch, just to kind of give it a bit more of a special look. So it's not exactly the same. Like it's almost like he's, you know, like the glass. It's like glass kind of going through. Maybe even make it an additive, so it kind of looks a bit more streaky. And you can kind of do this you can do this multiple times. So if we did this one more time, let's duplicate this one more time, and let's duplicate this, and let's we'll hold down Alt and then drag this on so it actually replaces what we've already got there. And now if we go in here, we can actually muck around this just a touch more. We can actually make it just only the red, which is kind of fun, and make it really small. And what we can do is we can actually pull it, we'll make this 0, but actually pull it closer towards us. So let's move it, yeah, like that. Just something a little bit more interesting than what we currently had. And I think that looks pretty dope, right? Now, if you wanted to look a little bit more organic, you could actually put a turbulent displace on the filter. So what you could do is go adjustment and then type in turbulent displace. And what this will do is make things a little bit wavy. Now, nothing is moving right now. I mean, it doesn't look too bad like that, but nothing's really moving. But you can kind of see kind of this sort of jelly look, which is kind of cool. So you can copy the displacement. I mean, obviously you can put it across everything here. I mean, just to kind of keep it consistent, just to make it all kind of jelly. Just to give it a slightly different look if you want to go for that look, which is kind of cool. You know, like he's kicking through a portal. Just something different, streaky. But that's the effect in a nutshell. It's kind of fun, pretty easy to do. And of course, like everything, if you want to just give it that finishing quality, we're just going to put an adjustment layer and everything. A little quick way to kind of do a little bit of grading. And, you know, doesn't have to be anything fancy, but, you know, grading just kind of finishes everything off. I just always like to use this particular preset. So my favorite preset is the Kodak. This Kodak 5218 just makes everything just look a little bit punchier. And that's it, guys. That is the effect in a nutshell. I hope you have learned something today. Again, if you want, just download the project file, follow along and see what you can get out of this. I really encourage you guys to try this out. It's a really, really fun one to do. And if you want to check out everything that's happening with me on the socials, you can go to nickkhoo_motion and check out all the fun stuff that I'm putting up there. You can ask me questions or send me a message. I will answer. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.
You guys got to check out Nick's tutorial tomorrow. He's going to be talking about the fundamentals of sound design. Trust me, it's a good one. Please make sure to check out all the videos in this week's creative series down in the description below. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I actually have 2 additional videos that you've got to watch. And remember to get your free month of Envato Elements by clicking the link below in the description. And lastly, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And as always, remember to keep it chill.